Another day, another game, another poor refereeing and VAR decision that once again goes against Arsenal. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Last night's Premier League action was highlighted by Arsenal's 2-0 defeat to West Ham. A game in which saw Arsenal lose top spot officially. They of course had the game in hand over Liverpool going into this game. Liverpool were top of the table. Arsenal needed to win in order to leapfrog Liverpool and retain their place at the top of the table going into the new year and going into the second half of obviously the campaign. But unfortunately for Arsenal, they couldn't find a way to beat a David Moyes side who were resolute, they were strong, they were disciplined, and ultimately got a 2-0 victory that saw them get the 3 points, a much needed 3 points for West Ham. And despite having, I think, 24 less attempts on goal than the Gunners, it was a day to remember for West Ham and for David Moyes, who managed to overcome the Gunners in this particular London derby. But once again, we're here talking about VAR. We're here once again talking about referees. We're here once again looking at an issue that has overshadowed plenty of football this season, and last night was no different. In the build-up to the first West Ham goal, Thomas Souček's goal, the ball was judged to have been kept in by Jarrod Bowen by referees and VAR to allow the goal to continue. However, upon further reflection, it seems that maybe they were looking at the wrong frame. Maybe they were looking at the wrong camera angle, because the image that I just showed you seemed to suggest that the ball was in fact out. And although this happened earlier to Arsenal on in the season in their game against Newcastle, it seems that lightning has struck twice in the same place against the Gunners. We're going to be talking about this incident. We're going to be talking about VAR and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you, please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always probably greatly appreciated. Also, get involved in the comment section as well. Let me know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That'll make for great and interesting reading down below in the comment section, I'm sure. So please do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk this Arsenal situation. Now, I'll show you the image once again. This is the image that has been circulating on social media. Now, I don't know about you, but I think this is a bit more easier to call than the Arsenal versus Newcastle incident, because I think that the post is really helping the image here. I think with the way that the post is, I think with the way that obviously he's made contact with the ball, and you can clearly see where the ball is between his legs there, I think this is a much more obvious one to call. I think this is genuinely out. I think this is genuinely out of play, and I can't believe the VAR has missed this. You can see that where the line is, where Bowen is, and where the ball is. You can clearly see where everything is there to clearly dictate whether or not that ball was in play or not. And in my opinion, then where the net is, of course, and with the way that the post is and the line, it makes it easier to call that. In my opinion, that should have been classed as out of play, and therefore the goal should have been chalked off. But I think they used this particular image. Now, I know it's not the best particular image, but I think they used this one. And I think you can clearly see just where Bowen's knee is. I think you can just see the sort of shape of the ball. That is not out of play, in my opinion. But I think that's the wrong frame that they used. I think they used that frame. And if they roll the frame on a couple more frames forward, you will eventually get to this one. This is not Photoshop. This is not edited. This is genuine. This is a genuine image of what was happening last night and what happened in the build-up to the first West Ham goal that ultimately put them ahead and broke the deadlock in the game. That, to me, is out of play. And I can't believe the referees missed that. I can't believe the referees didn't see it. They missed it. That, to me, is clearer than the one against Newcastle. Because, as I said against Newcastle, I can accept the Newcastle one being kept in play. There's no way of telling. The camera angles weren't great. Obviously, the way the ball is compared to where the line is. It did look out of play on certain angles and it looked in play in others. But that one looks much more clearer to me. That one looks much more clearer and obvious that was out of play when Bowen kicked the ball back into play to obviously set up Souček for his goal. I can't believe the referees have missed that. I can't believe the VAR has missed that. Now, don't take anything away from West Ham. West Ham was still very good on the day. They were still very well drilled, well disciplined. They were solid defensively. And Arsenal were extremely poor, especially in the final third. Like, Arsenal had 30 attempts on goal. Only 8 of them were on target. But even so, I don't really remember them having a clear-cut opportunity, apart from 1 or 2 Jesus opportunities, which he should have done much, much better with than he actually did. I can't remember them having too much of an opportunity, other than... No, there was one, actually. There was Bukayo Saka's in the first half, and then there was a couple of opportunities from Gabriel Jesus, which he should have done better with. Other than that, I don't really think Arsenal did a great deal to really threaten that West Ham back line. And it's really come to what I've been saying about Arsenal all season. I have question marks over Arsenal's firepower up front. I think what we are seeing from Arsenal this season is a much more controlled Arsenal, a bit more of a reserved Arsenal, a bit more of a... just overall controlling Arsenal in certain games. But I think it's made them lack a bit of an edge, a cutting edge up front. A bit of a prolific nature up front that we saw last season. Last season they were devastating. Last season they were lethal. They were absolutely frightening to watch at times going forward. This season they're a bit more controlled defensively, which is good to see. But they seem to have lost their edge up front. They seem to have been a bit more blunter up front than they were last season, and that is really what we saw last night from Arsenal in a number of respects. We can look at the VAR call and we can call it out for what it is, and I do feel sorry for Arsenal that once again they have been hard done by seemingly incompetent VAR officials who seemingly used the wrong frame, the wrong time, the wrong even maybe camera angle to determine whether or not the ball was in or out of play. But don't take anything away from what was a good performance by West Ham and what was a poor performance by Arsenal in the attacking third. Like, they still lost 2-0. Mavropanos' goal in the second half really put the game to bed. And Arsenal from there seemingly ran out of ideas. There was no real plan B. Even their substitutes didn't really change the game. And West Ham was seemingly comfortable once that 2-0 scoreline came to fruition. I just find it strange that this once again is happening. And, you know, I would say that it's the Emirates and they had over a year to obviously change the camera angles and things to obviously determine these outcomes. We all remember what happened last year when Arsenal took on Liverpool, for example, and obviously there was a bit of a blind spot in the VAR cameras to determine whether or not Bukayo Saka was offside for the first Arsenal goal or not, which conveniently went in Arsenal's favour. So, you know, again, swings and roundabouts, but we have to be consistent here. I can banter and I can joke about that as much as I want, but we have to be consistent and say that once again Arsenal have been hard done by here. Once again Arsenal have been pretty much shafted by VAR and by the officials, because like I say, that to me is out of play. And what makes it more obvious is, I know you can't see the entirety of the ball between Bowen's legs there, but you can still see enough of it to determine, right, that should be out of play. The net, the goalpost, that should be a good indicator as to whether or not the ball is over the line or not. And I personally feel like it is. I don't really see how that cannot be the case. I don't really see, because we know the shape of the ball, we know obviously where it is, we know obviously it's pretty much into the side netting there. I don't understand how they can get that wrong and use this particular frame instead. Now, I know that this, again, isn't the best image, but if you were to zoom in on that particular image, you'll see that the ball is by Bowen's knee. that is in play. If that's the image that they used to determine whether the ball was not or was in play, if you'd have rolled the frame on a couple more, you would have seen that this would have been the outcome. As soon as Bowen makes contact, that is where the ball is. It's seemingly out of play, and I think Arsenal have been incredibly hard done by. Again, don't get me wrong, don't take it away from a good performance by West Ham, don't take it away from a poor performance in the final third by Arsenal, but we know that goals can change games, and we know that obviously things can be different upon certain reactions and certain decision making. Arsenal weren't great, but they still didn't deserve to be almost cheated out of a goal in that kind of circumstance. I don't get how you can make that mistake and how you can miss such a seemingly obvious and glaring error like that. What happens next? Does the PGMOL come out with another apology? I don't know. Do we have to go on another tirade of VARs and camera angles again? I don't know. I'm sick of this conversation, but at the same time, we cannot stop the conversation. I'm sick of the conversation. I hate the conversation, but we cannot stop the conversation, because the moment we do, we become inconsistent, and then we lose all authority for if it does happen to our own teams. And let's face it, Liverpool have been hard done by. So for me personally, I can't be inconsistent on this. I've got to try and call it out as much as possible. There was another VAR incident yesterday in terms of Lewis Dunk, his challenge on Dejan Kulusevski. Now, again, it's a little unfortunate because he does get the ball first. But as we have seen time and time again for the likes of the Curtis Jones tackle on a Tottenham player earlier on in the season, Casemiro's, a couple of Casemiro ones over the past year or so, and even Christian Romero's, getting the ball first nowadays doesn't necessarily mean you get away without punishment. Lewis Dunk got a yellow card for his challenge on Kulusevski last night for his follow-through, despite getting the ball first. But what we've seen in recent games from those players that I've mentioned is red cards happen because the follow-through has caught the player in a potentially very dangerous situation. And that is exactly what the Lewis Dunk one was. Lewis Dunk's follow-through caught Kulusevski on a possible dangerous place. Kulusevski seemingly is okay, but that's not necessarily the point. The point is that red cards have been given for those types of challenges. Dunk may be pretty fortunate that he didn't see red himself. So there were a couple of VAR calls last night that was seemingly a bit dodgy, a bit fortuitous for the teams that obviously received them. But again, all we ask for is refereeing consistency. I mentioned it yesterday in regards to the handball. I don't know what a handball is anymore. I don't know what VAR is looking for anymore. I'd be interested to hear the audio if they bring that up in terms of what they were looking for, what they were checking for, and if obviously those particular camera angles and those particular frames were in the consideration for whether or not the ball was in play or not. Because like I say, I bring it up again. That to me looks out. That to me looks out of play. And don't get me wrong, as a Liverpool fan, I sit here delighted at the result of West Ham against Arsenal last night. I sit here delighted and I'm happy to say that Liverpool are top of the league. Liverpool are going into 2024 well. I mean, obviously Arsenal played before Liverpool this weekend, so Arsenal could go into 2024 as the league leaders, but with Liverpool having a game in hand, of course. But I'm loving sitting here saying that Liverpool are top of the league. But I have to call out these things for when they happen. And last night, again, like I say, unless someone can explain to me why it should have counted, I don't see a reason why it should have. I see the ball being out of play. I see the VAR using the wrong frame, maybe even the wrong angle to determine whether or not it was or wasn't in play. And I just think it's weird that for all of the cameras that we have at football stadiums now, particularly in the Premier League, for all of the cameras, all the camera angles and everything, I don't understand how we don't have a clear and definitive angle that could determine whether or not that ball was out of play or not. I still don't get it. And I think that this has now happened on multiple times this season. It happened with Manchester United against Brighton. It's happened with obviously Arsenal, Newcastle. And it's obviously happened last night between Arsenal and West Ham. And I think it may have happened even once or twice before that. We need action on this. Because this is becoming a more regular occurrence now. We need action on this. We need better camera angles. We need a way of determining whether the ball had actually crossed the whole of the line or not. Goal line technology needs to be used right the way across these particular lines of the outline of a football pitch. We need action on this immediately because this is starting to happen regularly now. And, you know, Arsenal are just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm not going to say, again, like I said yesterday, I'm not saying it's a massive conspiracy theory. I'm not saying it's a massive witch hunt or anything along those lines. I'm just saying that Arsenal are the wrong place at the wrong time in these types of scenarios where it's happened to them twice now and it's probably cost them some points. We don't know that for sure, but it probably has cost them some points. We'll see obviously what happens, what the outcomes of this is, whether or not the IFAB or PGMOL or whoever decide to act on this and decide to try and combat the amount of times that this particular incident is growing. But until then, Arsenal have been hard done by yet again. I feel sorry for Arsenal in some respects. They are the wrong team at the wrong place at the wrong time. But yeah, there you have it. Another case of poor VAR officiating last night, not determining the possible outcome of a goal being chalked off for this particular incident from West Ham last night. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of all of the stuff that I talked about in this video? What do you make of Arsenal's 2-0 defeat to West Ham last night? What do you make of the win for West Ham, the loss to Arsenal, and of course the overall overshadowing element of VAR once again rearing its ugly head to, of course, seemingly cost Arsenal one of the goals last night. What are your overall thoughts on it? I'd love to know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, down below in the comment section. I'm sure it'll make for interesting and great reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things are always very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for stopping by and watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you again in a bit.